there are no billionaire owner operators. They don't exist. They're
Right.
all at the pinnacle. They're all at the top. And so the mistake that we make as entrepreneurs is we believe that we do more as the owner operator, that somehow we're going to be wildly successful. And that's simply not true.
And that, when I talk to prospects or clients, it's like, who owns Coca-Cola? Who owns Harley Davidson? Who created that? Like, those people are long gone, but they created systems that allowed the business to thrive without them. Welcome, badass entrepreneurs. It's time to hear the world's movers, shakers, and difference makers spill their secrets for unlimited success. So strap in, for Badass Entrepreneurs Only begins now. Welcome, badass entrepreneurs, to yet another edition of For Badass Entrepreneurs Only. It is the podcast of ultimate badass entrepreneurs, people who love stepping into the fire, who love challenging themselves, who love jumping off the cliff to figure out how to grow wings before you hit the bottom. That's what this show is all about. And I am very pleased that today I'm going to be speaking with the real, you hear me? The real Jason Duncan. He is a badass entrepreneur, going from an unemployed teacher in 2010 to building a multi-million-dollar business. He created XOS, the Exciter Operating System, that empowers entrepreneurs to break free from daily operations, build assets, and lead balanced lives. Jason has been featured in Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, and he's on a mission to help entrepreneurs become better fathers, husbands, and balancing family with their entrepreneurial journeys. We're going to learn all about his unique brand of success, work-life balance, XOS, and all kinds of cool shit. So let's do this thing. The real Jason Duncan, welcome, welcome, welcome to For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Thanks, Coach Dan. Good to be here, my man.
All right, let's dive into it. What do you say?
I'm ready when you are.
So I want to talk about going from an unemployed teacher in 2010 to building a multi-million-dollar business. I've got to hear this story.
Well, I was a school teacher, taught 8th grade American history, and was planning to be in education for the rest of my life. And we came through the Great Recession back in 2008, of course. And then in 2010, 2011, the recession started catching up to school districts all across the country. The building in the county where I worked, I was the last guy hired in that particular school building. And I also had been in the system for 4 years, so I didn't yet have tenure. At the time, you had to be 5 years in that system in order to get tenure. And I was the last guy hired and didn't have tenure. I was the number one teacher in the county in my school, in my subject area. But when they had to make budget cuts, they had to cut 2 teachers out of that building, that particular building. And I was one that was on the chopping block. That was a tough day in my life, but turned out okay.
Let's talk about that, because so much of what entrepreneurialism is heartbreak, right? I mean, it's not just working hard. Anybody can work hard. It's surviving and thriving heartbreak. How did you make it through that time? I mean, look, this was your identity, and that's what happens with any entrepreneur who suffers, loses their business. Your identity takes a hit. How did you navigate through that?
Well, so I remember that day really well, because I got the message from my principal. He came in, wanted to talk to me, and he said, "Hey, we need to sit down and talk." Yeah. And this was in April. So, I mean, I still had the rest of the month of April and the whole month of May to finish out the school year. He was just letting me know my contract not going to get renewed in August. And I had elected to be paid annually. So I got paid monthly, 12 months of the year, even though I only taught 9 months of the year. So I knew I had paychecks coming, but that still was like, hey, that doesn't help me. So yeah. I remember that day well. I left the school around 3:00, as I would normally do, 3:20, and I drove over to my wife's office. She worked in downtown in the area where we lived, and she was a branch office administrator for a financial advisor. So I walked into her office, and she's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Hey, what are you doing? How's your day going?" And I didn't ask her, and I just told her. And what I didn't know is that she had a really bad day that day as well. Right. And when I told her, both of us were like crestfallen. It was we weren't sobbing and blubbering like little babies, but it was definitely an emotional moment because we didn't know what to
Mm,
do next. But we follow Jesus, and he's always
yeah.
provided. We've never been without. We've always had what we needed. And so we just had this sense of just underlying faith that everything was going to be okay, even though we didn't see. We just didn't have all the data. We didn't know, we didn't have all the data
Yeah.
points what happen next. And ultimately, I ended up starting a business. That was not my first choice. My first choice was to get another teaching job, which I couldn't find. Nobody was hiring anybody.
Yeah.
I even started interviewing in the corporate world to get into doing sales or something, and I kept stringing people along because I thought, well, maybe this business thing should work. And ultimately, I went with the business and became an entrepreneur.
Mm. And I really love what you shared about faith. And it, so many entrepreneurs, when I talk to them about coaching, they want to know how. How is this going to work? What's going to happen? What are all the steps? And I'm like, sorry, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to detach yourself from the how, because if you get lost in how, you're never going to do it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, don't wait for the how, start now because the how will
Mm.
will reveal itself.
Mm.
Now is what you're in control of. So you just have to do something now. You got to act.
And so, what was the multi-million dollar business that you started?
Well, so this is also an interesting story, and I don't often tell all the details of this story, but I'll tell you the details. So
Great.
a year prior to that sit down with my principal, a little over a year prior to that, a friend of mine named Bill, who since passed away, but he came to me and he said, "Hey, I want to start a business with you." Now, I want you to know that at that time, I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I didn't know any business owners. I was firmly entrenched in employee life, and to my benefit, or to negativity. I don't know what it was, but either way, I didn't know what entrepreneurship was. I didn't know business owners. Well, he came and presented this, and I said, I don't want to not teach. I'm going to teach forever. And he said, listen, you're smart. You're good with sales. I need somebody like you on the team. Let's do this. So against my maybe better judgment, we started this company, and that was in 2010, and it was designing ethanol stills and hydrogen generators for on-demand hydrogen generation for cars. I taught eighth grade American history. I didn't know anything about this crap. I had no idea what I was doing. But we started it and it was fun. And it was interesting. He was kind of the mad scientist, and I was the guy that brought it all together and tried to sell it. And we didn't make any money. We sold a little bit here and there. We did make the inventions work. Well, now fast forward a year, and
Uh-huh.
when I'm looking down the barrel of not being a teacher anymore, the idea of doing this other business is like, this is never going to make any money. But then LED lighting at the time started to become not popular, but just like the precursor of what LED lighting could be for commercial lighting space. And we were an energy company. So I thought, well, what if we just get rid of energy creation and do energy efficiency? And
I
I know how to
love it.
sell. I could probably sell this.
Yeah.
So I went to Bill, had a conversation with Bill, and Bill's like, that's never going to work. I said, okay, well, here's my proposal. You take all the stuff you've been working on. I'm going to take this and run because I have to feed the family. And we agreed to do that. And so he took the
Hmm.
stuff we'd been working on. I took the lighting. So we were going to do LED lighting retrofit sales. And within, I think from 2011, when we actually started the LED side, I think I made like 30 grand that year, 38 grand in sales. The next year was over $1 million. Like it went pretty
Wow.
fast. And I landed a huge contract with a big hospital. And that first check they gave me was like 18 grand to do it, which was half of my teacher salary in one check. And then the next check I got was $636,000.
Wow.
And so that was when it was like, holy crap, this is new. This is new territory I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And over the course of the years, we built that up into, not, I mean, we weren't doing eight figures or anything, but it was a seven-figure company, and we were doing really good, multiple seven figures, and it was great.
So this is really a great story, right? And of course, the part of the story that we always leave out is the 3 a.m. pacing back and forth, going, "Is this the right choice? Am I really headed down the right path here?" Did you have any of that time?
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
so so part of the story, and this is so I brought in another business partner when I made the decision to go all in on the lighting stuff. So Bill
Hmm.
and I separated, and and I'd known this other guy, and he'd actually loaned us 5 grand to buy some equipment and things to get the business going back a year prior. And so
Yeah.
by now I knew him a little better, and I thought, and he had been a successful entrepreneur. So I went to him and said, "Listen, man, would you want to partner? I need a mentor. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like I need somebody to." And for sure, he agreed, and we started that business. And I only needed to bring in 3 grand a month just to pay my bills at that time,
Hmm.
which is that's an insane number to think about today. But
Yeah.
that's all I needed. Now my wife worked full time; she had a good job, so like I only needed three because that's what we were used to living on as a teacher. So when we got to the place where the business was like, do you crap or get off the pot? That whole thing's like, are we
Yeah.
going to do this or not? Well, for me, it came down to I just had to have 3 grand a month. That's it. Like as long as I get that, I don't care what
Jeez.
happens. I don't need $1 million. I don't need $100,000. I just need 3 grand a month. And so my business partner, when we landed that big deal I was mentioning, he said, because he knew like what I didn't know, hey, it's going to be a long time for this money to show up. It's not going to come in. That $18,000 check that we got is going to be gone like that. It's not going to be spendable. He said, well, what do you need? I said, what do you mean? What do I need? He goes, what do you need? And I said, well, I don't know what you mean. He goes, what do you need to pay your bills? And I said, 3 grand a month. He goes, I tell you what, I'll pay you 3 grand a month until we get until we get that money coming in just from me to you. And you can pay me back when we start getting the money. For
Wow.
me, I thought that was a gift. It was a huge godsend. Now there's much more to the story we could get into, but maybe not. But that ended up turning out to be something that hung over my head for a really long time and caused a lot of problems. But he paid the 3 grand directly to me for 9 months. And at the ninth month, we got that huge check. And I never needed supplemental income from anybody else
Wow.
ever again. So, and I got him all paid back, got him squared away. But that's, there were lots of moments. It was like, should I keep going with this or go back
Yeah.
to teaching? And really, when I started meeting with financial advisors, because now I have money to do something with, the
Hmm.
financial advisors were asking me, well, what's your long range plan? What do you want to do? And I always said, I'm going to go back to teaching. Like I'm going to make
Huh.
enough money to where I can then choose to go back to teaching. And I don't give a flip what the teachers or the principals say or the administration. I'm going to do what I want to do and teach these kids because I'm a great teacher.
Wow.
Well, that was what I wanted to do for a long time. Well, now my opinions has changed. I mean, since COVID happened. I would have got fired if I was a school teacher during that whole. But anyhow, there were lots of sleepless nights and wondering whether or
Yeah.
not I should carry on. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. I made a
Mm.
lot of mistakes. I was a pretty dumb guy in those early years.
Yeah.
But that's
Boy,
how I learned.
and JD, it's what it takes. You got to be a little stupid, right? Because if you really looked at the likelihood of success, or you really looked at all the things that you're going to have to go through, nobody would do it.
No,
And
you'd be a
right,
sadist to sign up for that crap.
yeah, right. But when you're in the middle of it, it's like, all right, I just got to figure this out to get back out of this again. And then you start going, oh wait, hold on, this works. Maybe I can do this, and it just all starts to come together. But that's where the rubber meets the road is those 3 a.m., pacing back and forth. Am I doing the right thing? That's the guts of real entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
In your opinion, what's the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make when they try to scale their businesses?
Well, I think the mistake that they make is they somehow assume that they are scalable, that
What
themselves
what do you
are
mean by
scalable.
that?
Well, owner operator is the first tier of entrepreneurship, right? We
Sure.
all are owner operators at the very beginning. And just as
Mhm.
I was an owner operator. You're a job owner, not a business owner. And that's where we all start. The idea though, and the mistake that we make is that being an owner operator, if we just do more of that, we become successful. And that is not how this works because as I
Mm,
teach in my XOS method, the Exeter operating system, there are 3 tiers. And that owner operator is the person who's directly involved in daily operations. He or she is doing it all either by themselves or everything 100% goes through them to get done. And
yeah.
that is not scalable. You are
No.
not scalable. There's only 168 hours a week. And even if you worked all 168, there's only so much money you can make and impact you can and put on this world with 168 hours. You have to multiply that. The second tier of entrepreneurship is owner manager. And a lot of entrepreneurs graduate in that, but most don't. They graduate in owner manager where they now have a team, they have systems, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still the buck stops with them. Everything still goes across their desk. They might not do everything, but it's still them. And then the third tier, what we're all aiming for, is owner investor. That's the top. That's the pinnacle. That's tier three. That's where we want to be, where the business runs with or without our direct involvement, and it
Yeah.
continues to produce cash flow and profitability without us physically being present or having to direct. Like it runs itself. It's an asset that creates on its own, that creates finances and profitability on its own. Now, think about this. There are no billionaire owner operators. They don't exist. They're
Right.
all at the pinnacle. They're all at the top. And so the mistake that we make as entrepreneurs is we believe that we just do more as the owner operator, that somehow we're going to be wildly successful. And that's simply not true.
Right. And that, when I talk to prospects or clients, it's like, who owns Coca-Cola? Who owns Harley Davidson? Um, who created that? Like those people are long gone, but they created systems that allowed the business to thrive without them. So would it be fair to say that a lot of entrepreneurs don't focus on systems?
Well, I think that is absolutely fair to say, but I also do believe that a lot of coaches and entrepreneurs falsely assume that systems are going to fix that. Systems don't move
Mm,
you from owner operator to owner investor. Systems are part of the story, but it starts with the mindset of delegation. You have to understand that you cannot be the hero of your business. I call it the hero syndrome. We
yeah.
put on the cape, we swoop in, we save the day, we put out the fires, we save the babies, we rescue the damsels in distress. Everything we need to do as heroes, we do that. And that's okay in the first 6 months, maybe 12 months of a business. But beyond that, you have to hang up the cape forever. Heroes will kill your
Mm,
business, including you. So it starts with mindset, and it's understanding basic delegation. And then it moves into make sure that you stage two of this whole thing, which is what I teach in the XOS method. Stage two
yeah.
is assembling your support squad. You've got to have a support squad around you, the bare minimum people to run things that you don't have to do, admin, sales, marketing, that type of
Hmm.
stuff. And then stage three is the A team. This is when it really starts making a big difference. You've got to have an A team of people, these people that you would rely on to handle your business. If you got hit by a bus and we're out of commission for 30 days, what happens? Like your A team is
Yeah.
the ones that are going to run it. And then, and only then, do you really focus, double down on systems. Because if you do systems first before you understood the mindset, before you got your support squad and before you got your A team, if you
Yeah.
systems first, you have a system that relies upon you still. And that never is going to graduate you to owner investor status.
Wow. What's the big mistake that entrepreneurs make when it comes to offloading work?
They don't delegate. They do something they think is called delegation, but they are actually confiscating. So it sounds like delegating, but it's confiscating. Or they do the
Oh,
other thing called abdicating. So it's like this pendulum, and they all rhyme. So delegation is where we want to be, but confiscation's out to one side and abdication is the other. So what does that look like? Well, delegation is when you assign, entrust, and empower someone else to do a task on your behalf. It's not just assigning it, it's assigning and trusting and power. That's true delegation. And there are certain
yeah.
steps that I teach that you have to do in order to be true delegation. But the mistake we make is we think we've delegated when we've confiscated. So we'll say, and this is what it looks like, hey, Bob, come here. I want you to do this for me. Here's what I need you to do, how to do it, when to do it, all the things that you think delegation includes. And Bob's like, gotcha. And then Bob starts doing it. But what do? We sit and look over his shoulder. Hey, Bob, don't do that. Do it this way. You know what, Bob? If you did it this way, it'd be so much better. If you'd use this, it'd be, you know what, Bob? Just give it to me. Right.
Right.
And we take it back. That's called confiscation. And then we complain that I'm a good delegator. I just got crappy people. No, you're
Yeah.
a crappy leader. That's what it boils down to.
I love
It's
it.
not
Right.
them, it's you. It's you. So that's one side. The other side, the sin of abdication. Now that's the one that I'm the worst at. And this is what caused me to lose one of my businesses is this abdication. Abdication is when you say, hey, Bob, come here and do this thing. And you explain it and do all the things you're supposed to do for delegation. But then as soon as Bob goes, gotcha, and he walks away to go do the job, you turn around and you never look back. You never check. You don't even know what the hell is going on. You have no idea if you did it right, did it wrong, until it's too late.
Yeah.
And so abdication and confiscation sound like delegation, but they're very
Hmm.
different. And that's the mistake that entrepreneurs are making.
That's brilliant. I mean, I really love JD how you encapsulated that because it's so true. we all have this dream of finding the perfect employee who's just going to fit like a puzzle piece into everything that we do. And
Yeah.
it's just not possible. People come with their own baggage, with their own background, with their own point of view. It's not right or wrong. It's just how they approach it. And I love your point about, I have the wrong people. I've heard so many people say, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. And man, that is the battle cry of a crappy leader.
Yeah.
That's the battle cry of how to lead and how to teach people effectively.
Yep.
So what do you
100%.
do about that? How do you help people through that?
Well, it really all boils down to mindset. I'm a
Mm,
huge fan of Napoleon Hill. I
yep.
read a lot of books on metaphysics. Napoleon
Oh.
Hill being probably the foremost one that most people know about how the mind works and how we create our
Hmm.
realities. A lot of people falsely assume that Think and Grow Rich is just about making money and being wealthy, and that it's a mindset book. It's about what
Yeah.
you think. It's about your
Well,
self-image.
it's the first word of the book. Think,
Think.
right?
Yes. Think. And so he obviously I'm a big fan of his. And then
Yeah.
there's another lady that most people have never heard of. Her name is Florence Scovel Shinn. Florence Scovel Shinn. Shinn is her last name. Look her up on YouTube.
Hmm.
She's amazing. She lived in the 20s. She wrote in the 20s and 30s, contemporary of Napoleon Hill. I don't know that they ever knew each other, but she wrote on the same things about mindset and how the mind works. And then there's books like let's see, what's the latest book that I was reading on this? Dr. Maxwell Maltz. What's the book he wrote? I'm just completely blanking. Psycho-Cybernetics. He wrote that in the
Okay.
50s. Another great book on mindset. But all of this, Dan, goes back to this idea of mindset is
Yeah.
that we have created our own realities through what we think and through what we feel. And then that leads to the way we act. So if we're dealing with this whole scenario, well, I just can't find any good people. There's no good people. Okay.
Hmm.
I agree that there's a bunch of losers out there. I get it, but they're not all losers. So if you can't find good people, it's probably you.
Yeah.
That's a mindset thing because it shows up in the way we show up. Because if I assume that the person I hired is a dumbass, I don't ever say it, but I assume it. If I assume that, the way I treat him or her is going to come across, and they're going
Mm.
to. And guess what? People rarely exceed your expectations.
Yep.
So if that's what you expect, that's how they're going to act.
Yeah. And now we come to like uh, just rabid authenticity. That I'm a big fan of having the conversations that nobody wants to have. And the fact is, if you think that somebody that you hired is a dumbass, you're the dumbass, right? Because you hired them, right? They didn't trick you. They didn't talk you into anything. You bought a belief that they were selling. And that belief was probably that you don't have to do any of the work, that they're going to take care of everything. And that's just like we're saying, it doesn't exist. It's a tremendous amount of self-reflection. And the ultimate conversation that you don't want to have is the conversation with you about you, what your fallacies are, what your struggles are, the things that you have done incorrectly that created the problems that you're experiencing, because you are the ultimate, um, what's the term? The central focus of everything in your business. You're the common denominator.
Yep. Well, you're right, and that's why I wrote the book. This book, Exit Without Exiting, it's about that whole problem of
Mm,
most people think your exit is just a sale, but
yeah.
there is a way that you can build a business that can thrive in your absence, that you can exit without exiting, without selling, and that's something I did with that lighting business. And
Hmm.
when I was able to do that, that's when life completely changed. Now, the ability to get to a place where you can exit without exiting, which is the sixth stage in the XOS method. When you get to that stage out of the seven stages, when you get there, that is the place of ultimate choice. That is when you get to decide, do I want to put more time in the office
Yeah.
or not? Or do I want to go spend time on the golf course? Or do I want to start another business? Or do I want to acquire some more assets? You get to a place of choice. And building that business to get to that stage is the same thing that will give you freedom all along the way. And
Hmm.
people assume that they can get freedom by just doing more of the owner operator crap. and you're not going to get freedom by doing that. I'm in the process right now of acquiring a business. I've founded 12 companies, and I will never ever start another one. Like this coaching business, the last one I started, well, it's not the last one I started, but one of the most recent ones I started
Yeah.
4 years ago. And it is the hardest business I've ever had in my entire life. It's hard to do. And you're a coach, you know how this is. It's tough. This is a business for crazy people. Like we are crazy.
Thank you.
So we are crazy people, but I will no longer ever start one, but I will buy them. And so I'm looking at businesses right now, and I met with a potential seller last night. I sat down with him for about an hour and a half at his place of business. We talked, went over the books, looked at the numbers, talked about employees. And I said, well, how many hours a week are you working in the business? And he said, 40 to 50 hours a week. And I said, well, just so you know, like I'm not looking for a job. Like I understand that for 6 months, I'm probably going to be here 40 hours a week. I get it. Because I got to learn the business. I don't know this business. But beyond that, I'm not going to be here. So what I know is that a buyer, as an investor, when I'm looking at that, I'm not going to offer what he's asking because I don't think it's worth that much because he needs somebody to replace him. And I'm not looking to be that guy. So I'm going to discount the offer because I don't want to do that. And the statistics bear it out that owner operator businesses sell for 30 to 50% less of non-owner operator businesses. That's the truth. And we've got to build value in our business by getting ourselves out of it.
I love it. JD, you aren't just about the bottom line, right? On the P&L. You have a vision for tackling poverty through entrepreneurship. What is it?
My wife and I, a long time ago, had this idea of, well, I mean, back it up. So we obviously, as followers of Jesus, we want to give back. We want to do good things in the community, but there's an issue with charity and nonprofits. So a lot of them are really making their situations worse. There's a book that was written, I forget the guy who wrote it, called Toxic Charity years ago. And the concept is like, there's a lot of charities that just are toxic and they create more of the same problems. So that was one thing that in the back of our minds, like, well, how do we make sure that the money we donate doesn't contribute to this toxicity? And then second is a lot of these nonprofits are out there and they take, and it's a shotgun approach. They say, hey, give us $1 million and we're going to help 10 million people. Okay, we're going to give us $100 and we're going to help 1,000 people. Whatever it is, it's a shotgun approach. Hey, every dollar feeds 18,000 people.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not arguing that it can or that even that it doesn't do that. But what if there was a nonprofit that took the money that is donated and funneled it to one person at a time? Like just one person at a time gets access to that. And there's a team of mentors, coaches, supports, advisors that can help that person move out of the poverty and mediocrity mindset that most employees have. They know that entrepreneurship could be a way out, but they don't know how to do it. They don't have the team. They don't have the support. They don't have the resources. What if we started a nonprofit that said, look, we're going to take one person at a time per year, and we're going to funnel 100% of our funds and energy into this one person. And at the end of the year, they have a fully funded business that's up and running, providing cash flow for them and their family, and they will forever change their family tree. One person at a time rather than 1,000 at a time. So to that end, my plan is we're going to be starting a nonprofit that does that, and I'm going to use my mastermind, the Exeter Club, as the chief place where they get the mentorship and the guidance, et cetera. So I got a bunch of very successful entrepreneurs that we can show them how to pick real estate, how to write your leases, how to write your operating agreements, how to get funding, how to do marketing. Like we can show them how to do it. So we can take a guy who's W-2, living paycheck to paycheck, poverty mentality, mediocrity mentality, and show them in the course of a year how to rise above that, become a business owner operator at first, but ultimately an owner investor. We can show them how to do that. And what's that cost? I don't know, 100 grand. It's not a ton of money.
No.
We can 150. We can get that person paying all his bills and give him all the support that he needs and get him launched, push him out of the nest. Say, hey man, you're on your own. That's what I want to do.
Wow. I so appreciate that because it's the ultimate teach a man to fish. Right? Getting somebody out of the poverty mindset, getting somebody out of the worker mindset, moving them into a place where they are the masters of their destiny. I mean, that more than anything is what is required in moving somebody from a place where they're destitute, where they have no hope, to a place where they can, not only be happy and successful, but create something that's a benefit to other people. Really
Yeah.
love it. Where can we learn about XOS?
So you can go to my website. It's therealjasonduncan.com, therealjasonduncan.com and /XOS. Of course, any of the information on the website is going to lead you to that. But I
Yeah.
designed the Exeter operating system specifically as a methodology to follow. So when I wrote this book, Exit Without Exiting, this was based on, I tell the stories of three different entrepreneurs and how they chose to pursue an exit. There was the traditional exit, there was the earnout, and then there was this guy who did an exit without exiting. So I told that, but it wasn't systematized. There were things that I taught, but it wasn't systematized. So after I wrote the book and it came out, and I had people start reading it and reaching out to me and asking questions. It became clear to me. It's like, well, okay, people need a system. So I developed the XOS system to be that conduit through which, if you move, you get to that stage 7, which is the ultimate exit. And a lot of people want to get there, but along the way, there's a lot of things you got to do to get there. So I plan to write a book on the XOS system at some point, but right now, all of the content is delivered through my mastermind, the Exeter Club, and you could read about it on my website at therealjasonduncan.com.
Cool. And do you have like a white paper or an ebook that breaks down XOS?
No, but I have it on there. There's on the XOS page on my site. There's the 3 tiers of entrepreneurship are all listed there. And as a matter of fact, I can probably show. I don't know if I can do this here. I'm going to try to do this. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, this is there's the 3 tiers of entrepreneurship. For those that are watching this, you can see this. Here's the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then I know this is harder to see because it's small, but these are the 7 stages of the XOS method. So these documents that I'm showing, these PDF, these images, are on the site at therealjasonduncan.com.
So here's what I'm going to do to make it super easy. You've got to check this out. It's brilliant. And clearly, Jason, the real Jason Duncan, is a man of deep heart, motivation, and vision. It's really designed to help you and help other people. So do this. Text these letters: X as in X-ray, O, S as in Sam, XOS. Text XOS to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text XOS. XOS, S as in Sam. And I'm going to set up a link that'll take you right to what Jason has been talking about. Really easy way to get there, learn all about his Exeter operating system, and learn more about the real Jason Duncan. JD, thank you so much for being on for Badass Entrepreneurs Only. I love your approach and what you're doing and your heart. You've been through it. You've come out the other side, and you're only learning and growing more. I really appreciate what you shared with my audience.
It's an honor to be here, Coach Dan. Thank you so much.
And would love to have you back on, so we will call it to be continued.
All right.
Hey, one last thing. If you're feeling stuck in business life, wherever, download my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. In this book, you'll see how the stories that you tell yourself are stopping yourself from living your greatest life. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to this number, 213-409-8366. 213-409-8366, and text the word GAP. It's a short read, it's fun, it's easy, and if you hate reading like I do, you can grab the audiobook. It's at that same link. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. You'll love it. All right, that's it. Go out there and be badass today.